Hello and welcome. My name is Natty Cash, and today we are discussing the new league phase of the Champions League. This is the first year that this is happening, so there's a lot of changes compared to the group stage that we're used to. I know that there's been a lot of news about this, but I think there's a number of items that are haven't really been told explicitly. So I want to go through and do a deep dive analysis of what does this new league phase look like? How is it different from the group phase? How do we do the draw? How do all of those things go together so that we have a set of matches to build into this new league phase? So as we go along here, we're going to discuss all of those points in this video. First off, let's just remind ourselves the format that we had from the Champions League previously. There would be 32 teams would go into a group stage, and that group stage would have a draw where you would split them into 8 groups of 4, and you would basically play everyone in that group once at home, once away, for totaling 6 games, 3 home, 3 away. Once you completed those games, the top 2 teams in each group get out into the round of 16. If you're third place, you get dropped into the Europa League, and everyone else is eliminated from the European competition. And then as we go through each of the knockout rounds, each round is randomly drawn for quarterfinals, semifinals, and so on. And so that's what our format we've been used to is. Let's just talk about some of the differences that we see in our league phase. In comparison, the league phase is 36 teams, so there are 4 more teams. I'm not going to go into a lot of like which teams get qualified in there. I think there's been a lot of discussion in other videos about that, but I could make a separate video for that if people want. Teams are in one league, and what you end up playing is 8 games. Now, how those games are determined, we're going to talk about a little bit later. You will have 4 home games and 4 away games. And then the top 8 out of this big league of 36 will automatically qualify for the round of 16. Then teams that are ranked 9th to 24th will play a kind of a play-in game or playoff round, 2 legs, to qualify into that round of 16. Everyone else does not move into the Europa League. You are done in Europe. So there's no more drop down into Europa League. If you are under that 24th point on the league standings, you're done. Okay. The other thing that's different to point out here is that there isn't a random draw each round in the playoff round like there has been. Teams will be drawn into a fixed bracket based on league ranking. And so this is just kind of a very rough picture of what that could look like, where then once this is filled out based on the rankings of each team, it's fixed, like March Madness bracket or an NBA bracket, things like that, where then you know the path that you need to take in order to get to the finals. So let's then delve a little bit more into the league phase and talk about how this is determined, our league schedule and all that kind of stuff. How do you play those 8 games? So first off, when we start looking at setting up for the league phase, there are 4 pots. These are the teams that are currently in there at the time of filming this. So you see 9 teams in pot 1, 9 teams in pot 2. Pots 3 and 4 will also have 9 teams, but we are waiting for 7 qualifiers. And so what we will see happen is every team in this league phase will have to play 2 teams from pot 1, 2 teams from pot 2, 2 teams from pot 3, and 2 teams from pot 4. That's how you get the 8 games. So even if you're a pot 4 team, you're going to play 2 teams from your own pot, then 2 teams from pot 1, 2, and 3 respectively. So when we look at building this league and the schedule, that's what's going to come into this. And again, I just pulled up an article from the UEFA.com website explaining this here. You hear, under a new format, they'll play 8 teams from matches from 8 different teams. and they kind of go into how that works exactly. They'll be seeded in 4 pots. There are 2 things that I want to point out here because one of them is pretty descriptive in how we've done it in the past, but the other one is new to this format, which really makes a wrinkle into how the draw is formatted. And that's this statement here. In the league phase, teams cannot face opponents from their country, which has been a rule before, and we've seen that when we look at the group stage in the past. What is different is, because you have 8 different games, you can be drawn against a maximum of 2 sides from the same country. So even though teams might have more than that in the competition, you and your opponents, you can only draw 2 as a maximum from one country. So let's then take a look at how that works and how we actually determine that schedule, because this is what's going to potentially throw people off. We're used to they're going to use balls for all of the drawing, pull, all the matchups. What happens in that scenario, and it explains here, right? The old draw concept for the group stage would be applied to the new league phase. Nearly 1,000 balls would be required. Okay, and with at least 36 bulls on stage. And again, what would happen, and there's an article that I read before that it would take about 3 to 4 hours to make that happen. So this is where then it's different. And then we are going to delve in, and I'm going to actually do a simulated idea of what the draw could look like. So all 36 teams will be manually drawn into physical balls. For every team manually drawn, a designated automated software will randomly draw 8 opponents across the 4 pots, who will be revealed on screen in the draw hall and on television. The software will also decide which matchups will be at home and which are away. So what will happen is the 36 teams that are qualified, they'll be drawn, and then once they are drawn, a computer is going to be running through the whole simulation. The draw will start with pot 1, assigning 8 opponents to all 9 teams, one after the other, and will continue with the other pots in descending order until all teams have been assigned their 8 opponents. The software will guarantee total randomness within the framework of the draw, conditions stipulated by regulations, blah, blah, blah. And so even though you'll know all your opponents, then what will happen is they'll probably figure out a way of announcing the whole calendar of schedules the day after. But this is how the new draw is going to happen. Now, some people are going to be concerned about this because you're using a computerized simulation, and how do you protect randomness there? But I'm going to then do a little bit of a sample with all of you about how some of this complexity would be very tough to do without a computer simulation. And so we're going to jump into some Google Sheets that I've created that is going to help map that out a little bit. All right, so here I am in Google Sheets, and I've got all 4 pots set up. Now, I know I said earlier that there were teams that were not part of that haven't qualified. I have just chosen some to fill this in so that we can actually simulate a draw properly. But here we have all 4 pots. Another thing I want to explain before we get into this is that the colors for each of these are just representing teams from the same league. So, for example, the Premier League, I've colored them all red. The Bundesliga are all yellow, and La Liga is green, and so on. This is just a visual way for me to then quickly determine which teams are able to be picked with each other and not. So that's what it looks like. That's why we have all these different colors. I hope all those colors show up well enough for you as you're watching this video. Now, as we take a look here, we've got the descriptions and rules are, right, teams are going to be drawn with 8 games, right? 2 teams again, 2 pot 1 teams, 2 pot 2 teams, 2 pot 3 teams, 2 pot 4 teams, okay? And so what it described is it's going to start with all the pot 1 teams and determine their matchups, then all the pot 2 teams, 3 teams, and pot 4 teams to finish it off. So a couple rules that we have to follow. You cannot be drawn against a team from your same domestic association. This, unless necessary, that would only apply as if there is a situation where there is 5 teams from one league in one pot. So the most we've got 3 German teams in pot 1. We've got 3 Italian teams in pot 2. If there's a situation for some reason where then 5 German teams were all in the same pot, then there would have to be a situation where someone would have to play each other as part of this league phase. But in this example, no, that wouldn't happen. The other rule, again, is stated here: you can be drawn against a maximum of 2 sides from the same country. So if I get drawn against 2 Italian teams, so Inter Milan and Atalanta, there's no way that I'd have to play Bologna, for example. Okay, so the way that I'm going to simulate it, and I'm going to do this for a couple different teams, and then afterwards I'll kind of show you my entire draw as we go through. I'm going to just use this little number randomizer right over here, and I'm going to use that as my way of randomly assigning games to each individual team, as well as then pulling the teams from each different pot. Okay, so the first pot here has 9 teams to choose from. So I've just assigned them a number 1 through 9. And then I'm going to use this randomizer to, as though it was a ball being drawn on stage, to be able to draw out the pot 1 team. So that's how we're going to simulate it. I'm going to do a couple examples, and then I might kind of fast forward and show you what the whole draw could look like at the end. Okay, so to start off with, Bayern Munich is drawn. So Bayern Munich is drawn here, right? Everyone saw the number 2 there. So Bayern Munich is the first one drawn. Okay, so then let's just take a look here. And I'm going to do it one at a time. I'm sure computer systems are able to do this all at once, but I just want to then compare here. So Bayern Munich cannot draw themselves, and they cannot draw any German team. Okay, so those are kind of the no stipulations of ones that can be drawn. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to then draw each of these teams. I'm going to assign the remaining teams a number, just like so. So there are 6 different teams that can be drawn, and I'm going to do it in order as just this is going to be the home team, this is going to be their away team, and so on. So I've got 6 different teams that could be drawn to be a home matchup against Bayern, and we have chosen Liverpool. So Liverpool gets chosen here. Well, then now Liverpool can't get chosen again, so I'm going to remove them, and then I only have 5 more options for Bayern Munich to choose from. So there are now 5 options for them to choose from for the away team that would be from pot 1. So Bayern Munich is going to be at home against Liverpool. They are going to be away against Paris Saint-Germain. So Paris Saint-Germain, again, I might be clicking through that a little bit too quickly here. That was number 3. So we have Paris Saint-Germain. Okay. And so those are the first 2 teams that are pulled here. Then we do the same in the next row. So can't be drawn against Bayern Leverkusen because they're from the same domestic association, but could be drawn against anyone else from pot 2. Okay, so then again, we do this for every single one. So, they can draw Arsenal. Okay, so they draw Arsenal at home. So Arsenal plays Bayern Munich at home. And then that can't be drawn again because they can't play twice. So then there's 7 more options to choose from. Now this is fairly straightforward as they draw Juventus away from home. But after a while, these options are going to be very limited. And you're going to have scenarios where it might only be between 2 different teams that you can actually choose this. But because this is the very first round, there really isn't as much limitation. So now we've got, Bayern Munich will play Juventus away, play Arsenal at home, play Paris Saint-Germain away, and play Liverpool at home. Okay, we go again and we can do pot 3. There are no restrictions here. There's no teams from Germany in pot 3. So there are 9 different options of who they can play. Now, again, when the computer does it, they might spit out the 8 different matchups right away, where then, as I'm doing this manually, it takes a little bit of time. So, Young Boys has been chosen. So, Young Boys, so that'll be a home matchup, Bayern Munich against Young Boys. Okay. Oop. Then I'll remove Young Boys off the list. They can't be drawn anymore. So then there's only 8 options left. So we then change this to 8 different options, and the away matchup will be against Slavia Prague. So Slavia Prague fills in there, and we're filling in the scenarios here. Now, one thing that we have to look for is, remember this third rule: you can be drawn against a maximum of 2 sides from the same country. Bayern Munich has already been drawn against Liverpool and Arsenal. So that means even before we start pot 4, right, we cannot draw against Aston Villa. That would be a third English team, and that wouldn't work. There's no other restrictions that are there, so we're good to then move on to this third round. I got to assign a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7 different numbers that are here for Bayern Munich. So once again, okay, we look here, we hit generate. Sparta Prague. Sparta Prague will be the home game. That it's okay that they're facing against both Czech teams. That's not an issue. But then now they can't play them another time. So then we go back. Oh, I will readjust the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we have 6 different teams. The last matchup will be away against Brest. So that is what a potential matchup will look like for Bayern Munich. And so they see you've got 2 England teams. In this case, there's also 2 French teams and 2 Czech teams, which isn't always the case, but this is kind of an interesting notion to see that there are, you see these multiples that are happening here. So let me just take you to another screen, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this. So over here, I have basically what I'm going to do is create a list of all of the individual matches and the match schedules for each team. So Bayern Munich has been fully decided, but realize in this process that there's now then a filling in of all of the schedules for everyone else, right? You see that Arsenal have their pot 1 away team already chosen because that's the home team, right, for Bayern Munich. So Arsenal already has that filled in. Juventus already has their home game against a pot 1 team filled in because Bayern Munich drew them away from pot 2. And same thing for pots 3 and 4. You see them already kind of filled in that they have their schedule available. So what's going to happen is as each team is pulled, this is going to get more and more complex to the point where there's going to be a lot of differences or a lot of teams that are no longer available because the draw has already been filled in. So I'm going to then move forward. I'm going to do a few more schedules here and kind of move along, and then we're going to look at some examples of some of those draws that are going to be more restrictive, that the computer is really going to need to work hard to make sure that there are no rules being broken. So come back in just a moment. Actually, I'm going to bring you right back in to our next pull is Inter Milan, because I want to show you something here. So the last draw I did was off screen, and I got Inter Milan. All I did was renumber the 8 teams that are left. Bayern Munich has already been finished, so their schedule's already done. So then what I did was I did the 8, and number 5 came up, which was Inter Milan. Now, one thing to note here is when we take a look at the schedule, so of course they can't draw themselves or any other Italian team. That's the rule right here. But as they draw the next team, there's something to notice here. We're going to go back to the individual schedules here and notice that for a pot 1 team at home, Liverpool and Bayern Munich have already been drawn in that slot. So Inter Milan cannot also draw Bayern Munich at home or Liverpool at home. So already you're starting to see how restrictive this can be. And so in this scenario, right, we also cannot have any Liverpool pulled here or Bayern Munich. So already, even though this is the only Italian team in pot one, we're already restricted down to less teams at what people might assume. So as we then go take a look here, we only have 6 teams to choose from. And so we're going to have Man City. So Manchester City gets chosen here. Again, they cannot be chosen again for the away leg. But then as we take a look at the away leg, we have to notice another thing. The away leg, well, we cannot choose Paris Saint-Germain and we cannot choose Bayern Munich. We can choose Liverpool again, but as you can see, the away leg for pot 1 cannot be Bayern Munich or Paris Saint-Germain. So we go back here and we now say, oh, it can't be Paris Saint-Germain, but Liverpool is now available. So as I renumber, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are 5 different options here. Liverpool is now available, but Paris Saint-Germain is no longer available because we're drawing them for the away pot 1 position. So we have then 5 randomly. Oh, it's Barcelona. So Barcelona get drawn, and they are filled in there. So you can already see with pot 1 the complexities that come in here. Now let's look at pot 2 because I think it's going to be even more chaotic already. So we're going to look at pot 2 and take a look at that as well. So we've got 3 teams from Italy that cannot be drawn. But the other thing to note here is that a home for pot 2. We also cannot draw Arsenal. So for home for pot 2, we also cannot draw Arsenal for Inter Milan, right? You see in this row right here. So as we take a look, so for now we cannot draw that team either. So 1, 2, 3, 4, already down to 5 different options out of 9 from that pot. So we redraw randomly, and we get a choice of Benfica. So Benfica comes in. Benfica can't be drawn again because they've already been drawn. But then the other thing to check out is that we also would have to come back here and look. Oh, Juventus can't be drawn. Now, they couldn't have been drawn anyway, but it does remind us that Arsenal now can be redrawn. So I'm going to renumber it. Again, in this case, there's 5 different options. But note how complex that starts to get when you are trying to eliminate each option. And then here we have Club Brugge being chosen, and that's our next pot. So just looking at those 2 pots alone, you start to see how just one extra pot being determined shows the added complexity. So as promised, I am going to move forward a little bit. I'm going to do a few more teams and then show you what this looks like once we've filled in a little bit more. All right, so welcome back. We haven't gotten too far. We have now picked Leipzig. That was the draw here, and they've already got one that's already part of their schedule because I already did the Real Madrid off screen. But one thing you'll notice here is already, and this is just the 4th draw, there's only 2 possible options that they have for an away game for their pot 1 team. And so again, as we just take a look at the individual schedules up here, and we look at this row here, we see that many of them are already filled in. Inter, Paris Saint-Germain, Leipzig, Bayern, Barcelona, Real Madrid. So there's only 3 teams left that we see here. There is Borussia Dortmund, Man City, and Liverpool that could fit one of these 3 slots. But because this is Leipzig, as we see here, they can't play Borussia Dortmund, so there's already down to either Manchester City or Liverpool to fill in this slot. So you can see how restrictive it already gets at this point. Well, let's draw it just to then see this here. And we get Liverpool. So you can see how it already gets very restrictive. And by the time that we've already gone through about half of them, potentially the whole schedule for all the pot one teams against each other has already been determined. It does get a little easier when you're going outside of an individual pot like this. So when pot 1 teams are done and you start doing pot 2 teams, it makes it a little bit easier, but there's still a lot to look for. So even if we look at pot 2, well, Leipzig cannot be drawn against Bayer Leverkusen, but we also then have to look at all the other options here. So that also means that they can't be drawn against Arsenal, Shakhtar Donetsk, or Benfica because they fill in that slot there. So Arsenal, Shakhtar, and Benfica also get an N in that position. So really you're drawing between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams from pot 2. And that in this case, that ends up being Juventus. So Juventus pops in there. Juventus cannot be drawn anymore. Benfica and Arsenal possibly can, but let's just reset this so that we have a good look. Juventus has been drawn pot 2 at home. Now we can't draw again Club Brugge, Arsenal, or Juventus. So Juventus is doubled. That's not a big deal because it's in the other slot here, but we also cannot do Arsenal. We also cannot do Club Brugge. So we have left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different slots remaining. So 5 different people. Atletico Madrid is played in here. Now, because that's happened and they're now set up to play 2 La Liga teams. A reminder that we cannot play, or Girona cannot play, Stuttgart cannot play because they're in the German league as well. So there's a knock-on effect that also happens in this process that means that it's more and more restrictive as we go down the line. So I'm going to finish out Leipzig here, pot 3 and pot 4, just so you get a look at all of that. And then I'm really going to then maybe move forward and just show you all of the pot 1 teams drawn, and we'll take a quick look at that as well. All right, welcome back here, and we are then I just drew Man City, and one thing to note already in here, even though I still have a few schedules left for the pot 1 teams, all the matchups between the pot 1 teams have been confirmed at this point. We can take a look here, and every single pot 1 team knows who their home and away matchup is already at this point because they're connected to each other. And so in this case, now we're really just determining and drawing pots 2 and 3. Now here's where it gets another layer of complexity. When we take a look at Man City, one team I want to look at comparatively is who can draw Bayer Leverkusen at this point in the draw. Bayer Leverkusen has not been drawn yet at all in the home or the away leg. And so when you take a look at this, well, Man City could certainly draw them either home or away. Liverpool cannot, because Liverpool already has 2 German teams on their schedule. So there is no way that Bayer Leverkusen is going to fit in here. They also cannot be drawn by Borussia Dortmund because they're in the same domestic league. They could be drawn by Barcelona. So here's then the weird part. Even though it looks like there's 4 potential options left, once one team is drawn here, if it is not Bayer Leverkusen, then Bayer Leverkusen has to play the away leg, it must be the away team for pot 2 for Man City. Because one, you also can't have Man City draw 2 different teams, and then the only team Bayer Leverkusen can play is Barcelona, and they can't play them both home and away. So that's where then it really gets complex. So let's just take a quick look here at what we can do here. So at the moment, Man City has some options here. Atletico Madrid, Juventus, Arsenal already have both home and away ties, so I've kind of given them a new marker there. And also we can't draw on the home leg. Shakhtar Donetsk, Benfica, I think are the only other 2 ones. So let's just mark them off. Let's just maybe go, let's see, no and no. So then we've got 4 teams. Okay, so this is still fine. We've got 4 different teams at this point in the stage, and I'm going to roll this, and we get Club Brugge. Now, again, because of what I've talked about earlier, because of the conflict with a team like Bayer Leverkusen, no matter what, Bayer Leverkusen would have to be this team here. There is no other way that that would happen. And again, I'll just take this and fill it into the individual schedule here. Oops, that was a little too far. Fill this in. And we also know that Leverkusen would have to then be the home team for Barcelona. Cannot fit into Liverpool, cannot fit into Borussia Dortmund. So those would no longer be kind of randomized. It's basically the only option that's left, which is, again, really interesting to follow along as we go through. So I just wanted to stop and show you that because it starts to really get complex with each pot. I'm going to then move forward, and I'm only going to stop 2 more times. I'm going to then stop when all the pot 1 teams' schedules have been drawn, and we can take a look at them. And then I'm going to do the whole rest of the draw on my own, and we can take a look at the entire schedule at the end. So just give me a moment, and we'll skip ahead through the wonderful magic of editing. All right, so I have finished all of the draws for all the pot 1 teams. And so this is what they look like so far, and I can even zoom in a little bit if that makes that a little easier. These are the schedules for the pot 1 teams, right, starting here and down. And I suspect is that after they would do the first round, they might pull some of these schedules up and see, okay, which ones do you find, what are some of the big matchups? You know, what are some of the things that you like to see? Oh, so look, a rematch of the Champions League final last year, Dortmund, Real Madrid. You might have, Bayern Munich, Liverpool, a bunch of different matchups. And they also then may talk about, well, who looks like they have the hardest schedule and who might have the easiest schedule. Because you might look at, say, Liverpool's schedule might look kind of tough. Not really many gimme teams there. Same with Barcelona. Lots of top league teams there. Then when you look at some easy schedules, right, you might be able to pick out Dortmund's schedule or maybe Leipzig. Or maybe even, so Man City's here is actually not too bad. So again, right, it might highlight all those kind of things. So I've done all of the pot 1 teams. They have their schedules. I'm now going to run through all the pot 2, 3, and 4 teams off screen. It shouldn't take as long, although there are going to be some areas where I'm going to have to recognize. So like Feyenoord cannot play another Spanish team. Sporting cannot play another English team, and so on. And you see that down in pot 4 as well. But shouldn't take as long, and I'll fill this up, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, I am back. I've just finished up doing the pot 4 results here. Even though I only had about 4 schedules left, as soon as Girona had filled their schedule, it basically made the schedule for everyone else. So this is just a sneak peek. This is Girona's full schedule of games, but we'll then go right into the individual schedules here. So as you can see, this is all filled in, and maybe I'll zoom in a little bit here. That's maybe a little too much. So you can see pot 1 we looked at previously. Then we've got some, like pot 2 right here. We could look at some tough schedules. Maybe Atalanta's is a tough schedule. I think Juventus in this example got a really easy schedule comparatively. So that's, again, an interesting comparison that they'll probably be made once the draw is determined. But this is just generally how some of the schedules could look. Again, there's probably thousands of different permutations of schedules that could happen. So this is by not all means a prediction, but it is just a way for you to glance and see what the schedules could look like, right? So for example, Brest's schedule here could be pretty tough, and then maybe an easier one. Maybe Bologna's is not too bad, I would say. But yeah, this is kind of how each of the schedules would be made. So that is basically all of my video. I'm going to give a proposal, though, is that if people comment below, I will make another video once all the teams have properly been confirmed, and I will do a mock draw before the real Champions League draw. It'll probably come out the Friday morning before the draw happens. So if you like what you see here, please like and subscribe, but also comment below, and I will do a full draw of the with all the real names and clubs in here as soon as they've been confirmed next week. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.